Welcome to Small Business Planning Week, Day 3, sponsored by Bank 59 and the Idea Collective. I'm Pat Miller, the Idea Coach, and I am so excited about how Small Business Planning Week has been going so far. The first 2 days were great. A lot of inquiries for people wanting to see the recordings after the fact, and that's what's great about this week. We're getting all of this expertise in one place, and then we're putting it up on YouTube so anyone can consume this material, and it's kept free thanks to our partnership with Bank 59. Thank you so much to them. Yesterday, we talked about financial steadiness and operations, and on Monday, we talked about vision, mission, and values. All of this stuff is stacking towards helping you have a very successful 2021. The vision is, what should I be thinking about to make sure that 2021 goes off without a hitch? That's what we're trying to get to today. And we have a guide that's been prepared by our presenter. It's in the chat. It's a PDF. It's the Small Business Planning Week workbook. And if you don't have that yet, we'll drop that in the chat again so you can grab it and kind of follow along, because we are going to go really, really fast because we got a lot of ground to cover. 1 hour to do it. One other thing to touch on, if you're feeling a little bit lost, like, man, I wish we could talk more about one of the things we've already covered. No worries. Friday is being set aside for a recap day and an interactive Q&A. So on Friday, if you're like, man, I wish I could ask Liz about the thing, we're going to get to do that all day on Friday. So Friday's going to be a catch up and a recap and a chance for us to cover things that you want us to cover again. But for today's broadcast, if you have questions, drop them in the chat and we'll include them in the conversation. So with all of that out of the way, let's welcome the star of the show, our presenter for the week, Liz Watson, the leader on the Impact Trail. Happy Wednesday, Liz. We're halfway through. How are you?
We certainly are doing well. Great to see everybody. So many faces that have been with us throughout the week and some new ones. So let's keep it going.
So yesterday we covered financial steadiness and operations. And on the whole, how did it go? Do you think we covered everything you wanted to hit on?
Boy, I think a lot of the highlights. Yeah, it left, I imagine, people going, wow, there's a lot to think about there. But yep, that's why we're all here to help each other out, right? To help each other be successful and help you think of the things that you need to. But yeah, I think we covered a lot of great ground.
And similar to the spirit of the Idea Collective, what we're going to do today is continue to bring in subject matter experts who will give their time and expertise to do some of the supplemental teaching. So we got a lot of people that we're going to highlight today, and we're switching it up and moving towards product and visibility, two very important areas. Which do you tend to focus on first with your clients?
Between those two?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that's really interesting. I think it helps me when I'm supporting my clients to understand what their current product set is, which helps then feed and understand if they want to make changes in that space, then how could they be more visible based on what their products are or want to be. So I guess I would answer that as product.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's start there today on product. Is it simply what you sell to make money, or is it a deeper thought than that?
It really is as simple as that. All of the things that you sell that brings in revenue to your company.
Okay. So let's go to someone that really looks at this analytically. We'll start the product conversation with Lynn Karazi. He works with Data to Profit. That's his company. We also call him the data magician because, well, the man can do pretty much anything. So Lynn, welcome to the show. And we're going to kick off the product conversation with you. How are you today?
I'm doing really well, thanks. Enjoyed the first 2 days, and I'm so honored to be part of day 3.
Well, we're excited to have you here. Liz, take it away.
So yeah, let's give a little bit more background before we jump in, Lynn. So what I want people to think about here, when you think of your products, that means physical products you may have, digital products you may have, services that you offer. So we're going to generically use the term product to account for everything, to make things simple. And for everybody to think about it, really, what can you do to differentiate your company from your competitors when you think about your products? So we're going to encourage people to think about as we go through this and have some of the other folks talk about product with us today. Let's think about the products that you have based on what you've learned this year and what you want next year to be and to get to your vision. Do you need to revise your current product set? Do you need to maybe add some new products to the mix? Or might you have realized it's time to stop offering some of the products and services that you do today? And it's thinking through that to understand, well, if I'm going to do any of those, when might it make sense next year to do that? In addition, we're going to be talking to folks about pricing. So if you do maybe want to keep your current set of what you offer, but it's time to restructure your pricing or do different pricing tiers, you want to chew on that too. So we're going to highlight some of those things today. And as another example of product, we talked about kind of the three main physical, digital services, but think about anything as we talked, Pat, about how you're bringing in money. Are there events that you do? Might be a product, could be a podcast, it could be a digital course, it might be a membership or a program that you're offering. Maybe it's you are paid to do speaking gigs, or you want to publish a book and bring in revenue. So just know that there are so many different ways, right, that you have all experienced of how you can bring in revenue to your business. So with all that foundation, Lynn, let's talk about if you are at that point where you need to evaluate your product offerings, share with us some of the things that you suggest people think about, especially small business owners.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you covered that so comprehensively. And I'd like to start with the perspective that somebody once shared with me. Offer things your customers want to buy, not just what you want to sell, but then also sell the ones that are more profitable. So it gets exactly into all the things you were talking about. So how do you decide which ones to offer, add, revise, or stop selling? Best place is to start with, what are you actually doing in 2021? You can very readily get a list of all your sales by product or service from your accountant, your bookkeeper, and look at that. It's a great place to start, but don't stop there. You need to take a deeper look to get that fresh perspective that I think you want to get to. And I'm going to talk about 3 different things that you should consider doing as part of your planning process. Number 1, look at your sales from your customer's perspective. Look at your sales trends is number 2. And number 3, understand your profitability. And to do this, I'm going to recommend, you may not like hearing it, but recommend you develop a database of all your invoice transactions. Because as we take each one of these in turn, you'll see where the value comes in. So number 1, look at sales from your customer's perspective. Here's where you can really understand their purchase behavior. How many customers bought each of the products or services you're offering? Do you appeal to a broad range of people who buy relatively few? Or do you have some products that just sell gangbusters, but to a relatively smaller set of customers? How often did they buy? Are they buying once a quarter, once a week, once a month? What are ways that you can add to their purchase frequency by offering other complementary products? And then finally, what items are often sold together? What strategies can you sell to put in place to add more items that are adjacent to one another? This comes back to Amazon. If people who bought this also bought these other products, can you recommend items that they can buy? And that way you get to know, by looking at this from your customer's perspective, do you know your customer as well as Amazon knows you? It is entirely possible. So number 2, look at your sales trends over the past 12 to 24 months. Are there certain products that have been trending up or down? It's maybe beneficial to tag each one of them with their direction, but then ask why. If it's a new item that's going really gangbusters, is it just because you did recently add it, or what caused it to go up? And again, are there other items that can go with these? For items that are trending down for you, the question is why? Are those products just going out of style from the marketplace? Or is somebody offering a deeper discount than perhaps you do on similar products, and you're losing market share to those people? So sales trends are huge, which leads us into number 3, understand your each product or service's profitability. How much each product contributes to your sales is good to know, but you also have to deduct the cost of sales and get into what are your gross margins, or how much is it contributing to your profits. And you want to look at that in terms of both dollars and percentages. But remember, you can only put the dollars in the bank. You may have a really high margin product, but if it's not selling, it may not be worth keeping to you. And so obviously then you want to take a look and tag them all, high, medium, or low profit contributions. And then finally get the benefit out of combining those last 2 and really looking at what are our products are trending upwards that are also high margin. Those are ones you definitely want to keep and find similar products to offer. If something's trending downward at a lower margin, that's one you definitely may want to take a look at. So these are three very high level things: customer perspective, sales trends, product profitability. It may sound a bit overwhelming, but understanding your sales is the most important thing you can do for your business. So it's worth your time, but don't worry, you're not alone. We're here to help.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lynn. Right. Some great examples for you. So you may have on your list, maybe I should evaluate my product offerings. Now you have 3 great steps to kind of help you move forward with that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Lynn.
So let's move on to a way that we can drive our profit margin. One of the best ways we can drive our profit margin is to evaluate our pricing and have a better pricing strategy. So when I think about making money in sales, I always like to turn to Sarah Bauer from Heartland Payment Systems. So Sarah, we want to talk pricing strategy. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks. How are you guys doing?
Great. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you for inviting me. So I'm going to talk about, it's a 5-letter word, which is price. Can everyone agree here that price is like this thing that kind of makes you cringe when you start to think about that in your business? And why is that, right? Why is it that we're so afraid of talking about the price of our products and services? And so today what I'm going to do is really just kind of give you high level questions to ask of yourself. Everyone has different products and services here. It might be a physical product. You might be in a service-based business. So to stay very high level, I want you to kind of think about how this would impact your business. So I have a really great leader here at Heartland. Some of you may have met him. His name is Tony Jalen. I'm going to give him credit for this line here. Price is only an issue when value is absent. I'm going to say that again. Price is only an issue when value is absent. So when you start to think about pricing, and maybe it is part of your business plan in 2021 or every January to look at your pricing, as you start to think about that, and maybe it's making you kind of cringe a little bit, like, oh gosh, can my customers afford a price increase? Can I not? What would happen if I didn't increase my price? I want you to think about that line. So here's some questions to ask yourself as you start to kind of get into this mode and this process. Even if you'd already go through an annual price increase every year, I still want you to ask yourself these questions. So the first thing is your pricing encouraging repeat clients? Am I encouraged by coming back? Now that could be, am I fair and competitive? Yes, absolutely. But is it encouraging me? So we think about a lot of subscription-based models, right? That's the way that the world is going with a lot of our home goods and services. How could you take your existing business and make it into a subscription-based model for repeat business? Could you do it? I bet you every single person on this call could make a subscription-based pricing model work, whether it be your primary product or your ancillary product. So think about that. Netflix does it, Hulu does it, why you should do it too. They figured it out. So the other way to do is your pricing encouraging people to pre-buy. Think about that for a minute, pre-buy. Would it be impactful for me to buy those services in advance by giving a discount? Do you guys have that in place? I mean, Fitness Plus came out this week. And I was looking at this product. It's an Apple product. They encouraged me to pre-buy by giving me 4 months free. That's pretty enticing. How could you turn that and flip that on its head in your business and encourage people to pre-buy? Lynn talked a little bit about like the data behind it. So the average sale value. So what I want you to also think about is, do you have a program in place where your pricing will incrementally increase? Is there already a scheduled time frame in which your pricing is going to go up? Is it quarterly? Is it annually? Is it weekly? Is this already in place? And if not, why? Do you just look at price as a reactionary, or are you proactive about it? Now is the time to get proactive about it. Everything in our life increases in price. Why are you not charging more? I want you to think about that and reflect. And then here's another thing. I'm going to use the gym membership as an example here. Anyone who's ever been a member of a gym, every year, what do they give you? An annual what? An annual gym fee, equipment fee. My kid's daycare has an annual, I don't know, whatever. What's my choice? Well, I'm going to go ahead and pay it. I don't really have a choice, right? Could you implement something like that in your pricing structure? Now, this isn't going to apply to all business types, but could you have something where it's an annual one-time fee? Even if it be $10, take $10 times the amount of customers you have, multiply that out. How much more money is that coming your bottom line? It's another way to look at it. Pricing does not always have to be black and white. And then here's my final thought for everyone. What would happen if you remove price from the prospect's buying decision? What if you remove price completely? What if you sent a proposal that didn't have it on there? Ooh, scary. There are ways to do this. I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritties of it, but I want you guys to reflect on these 5 questions. And remember, price is only an issue when value is absent. So thank you so much for inviting me on. And I hope I got you guys thinking a little bit more about price. It's not that scary.
Oh, great stuff, Sarah. We certainly appreciate that. Boy, you gave us some good things to think about. And right, that's really what this is instead of getting stuck in the way you normally think about things, I love everyone sharing these ideas so we can look at it differently and realize we can do it too, right? Like you said, Netflix is doing it. Come on, you can too. Thank you so much for sharing all of that goodness. The next topic we wanted to talk about when it came to products was really, especially what so many people experienced this year, the way your products are delivered. There's been a lot of changes with that and a lot of different ways you can do that. So Pat and I thought this would be just a good topic to bring to the table of, as you look to next year, based on what you've learned this year, if you haven't already, do you think you should change how you deliver your products and services? So Pat, what if you could share some examples? I know you talked about this a lot this year on the Idea Collective. What have you heard from other small business owners in regards to delivery?
Yeah, this year was an experimental year for many, and it was forced adaptation. We didn't have much of a choice. What happened if we couldn't get in touch with our clients face to face? What happened if they couldn't come into our store? What happened if we couldn't do the things we normally do? And it really shined the light on some important flaws that many people had. And one of the most important things that I'm just screaming from the mountaintops for everybody on this call, I don't care what you do for a living, you have to have a digital product. You have to, must, I require you, if we're still going to be friends, make a digital product. That's a little extreme, but I'm begging you to make a digital product. And there's a lot of reasons why. The most important reason why is that you do it once and you sell it forever. It is such an amazing, like, power of the universe. By the time you sell a course, you're good. You can always sell it. So it doesn't have to be a course. It can be a training. It can be anything that's digital and virtual. But I think it's given us the opportunity to say, okay, what do I have that I can sell online? That's probably the first and most important adaptation of product delivery that we learned this year.
Great, thank you for that. Yeah, and there's so many ways. We've certainly seen, boy, and I know Sarah has mentioned over the last several months how her clients have had to change how they do business. And several of you have mentioned that. And we've seen restaurants have to move to curbside pickup, right? So there's so many different ways, even when I think of service, people that offer services, right? They had to move everything to virtual. And now it's considering, for next year, did that end up being the better approach? Shall I meet with my service-based clients, continue to do that virtually? Is that something that they preferred? Like Lynn said, find out what your customers want. Or when we are able to, is it moving back to meeting in person and helping them do the work that they need? So yes, lots of different things to think about when it comes to product delivery.
And I think it goes back to that customer relationship. The forced adaptation that we had to go through not only forced digital delivery, but it also forced us to understand what's the minimum viable product that people need from us. What do I do that they need? And how can I give it to them in a way? We had to go through the lens of safety this year, but it also it killed a lot of the assumptions that we made about what kind of value we deliver. So you mentioned the carry out for a restaurant. I'm kind of liking the idea of ordering and paying in advance and just rolling up and grabbing it. Like, that's not a bad thing. And one thing that we have to be careful of as we go into this year is, as we quote unquote get back to normal, Make sure that you're not making changes back to the old ways just for the old ways. Listen to what your customers are saying. It's really essential. The last thing I want to add about customer delivery, and this is another big aha moment for me, so maybe it will help you in the future. If you're a service provider of some kind, how are you delivering a one-to-many product? If you've always done one-on-one coaching, one-on-one service, one-on-one whatever, it's tough to scale one-on-one real time, really tough to do that. So how are you creating products that's one to many? And the Idea Collective is an example of that. It's a way that I can show up, be the idea coach, and help a lot of people at once. So I'm not saying go make another Idea Collective. I'm just saying, what can you do with the challenge of one-to-many product delivery? Because it's an opportunity for you to serve an unlimited audience, maximize your time, and help a lot of people. So those are just some of the things that I'm thinking about as far as product delivery. And to make sure we don't lose the theme, listen to your customers. They will tell you what they want. And then from there, you can go build a product that meets them where they are.
Great. So I think that wraps up our product discussion, Pat.
Okay.
Let's move on to visibility.
Yeah. So give us an overview of visibility. What are some of the things that you're looking to discuss as we talk about visibility in terms of 2021 planning?
With visibility, and this is probably, it's typically in the top 3 things when it comes to priority from all these pillars that we're talking about this week, these main pillars like visibility, financial steadiness, etc. This typically bubbles up to the first top 3 from making sure that you're putting focus on it. It's really all about how your consumers, customers, clients, how they see and hear about your company. So you're thinking about marketing, public relations, advertising, branding, and why do we want to focus on this? And really, this is the back office. So I mentioned before when we started the week, there's front office and back office. And front office, really the leader is focused on marketing. This is the, what do we need to make sure is put in place in the back office to ensure that you as a leader or the company is getting more awareness out there, is able to be more visible. And the whole gist of it is we want to get you in front of others so that you can increase your revenue. And so you need to make sure, though, as you're doing this, create a plan that's unique to you and that feels good to you. You don't have to do everything, but there are so many different ways to be visible, as you are all very aware of. So I'll just share a few variety of tactics, and then we're going to go on to our experts. So how are the ways you can be more visible, and what might you need to put plans in place to get that done? A lot of it is really making sure you're leveraging your relationships, and that there's word of mouth is just one great way to get out what you do. You may want to think about advertising, whether that's through social media platforms, anywhere online, a magazine, a publication. Consider your email marketing. Do you need to put things in place to ensure that's a solid system and process to help get the word out about you and your company? What could you do on your website to enhance visibility? Consider, we'll have Claire talk about blogging and social media, either doing it on your own, or maybe you want to be a guest and featured on others' blogs. Same with podcasts that Elsie will talk about. You could create your own podcast, or you could focus on just being a guest. You could do TV and radio interviews, events, either host your own or participate in others. And of course, as Lori will refer to, is local networking, not just local, but networking in general. So there's so many different ways you can be visible, but it's important to think about it strategically. Again, based on what your goals are for the year and where you ultimately want to get to with your vision, what are the visibility pieces that feel good to you, and where does your audience hang out? Where do they want to hear from you? So you've got to keep that in mind too, just like we were talking about what services and offerings do they want. Think about how do they want to best engage with you. So that's kind of visibility in a nutshell. So let's go on to our first expert.
Yeah, and that's a great point you make about meet your audience where they are and what they want. To welcome us to this conversation, let's just go through that marketing overview and welcome to the call, Andrea Hubbard, Hub and Company. Andrea, great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, thank you. Planning is my jam. I'm so glad that we're having this planning week. Oh my gosh. Everything starts with a plan or a strategy. Love it.
You got it. That's right. So, from a visibility perspective, what do you want to encourage these small business owners to think about?
Right. So, I know that you started the week talking about mission, vision, values, which is so important. It's foundational, especially when you think about a brand strategy, right? And then you just shared some examples of how you can market yourself. But I think what I would like to talk about are kind of things that people might not think when they think about visibility. And there's three parts to that. There's the confidence that you have in your abilities. Being confident in the way you approach your market is going to help you with your visibility. And this is what I mean. The visuals that you have, and you spend all of this time agonizing over your color palette, and all of that is great. It helps to with the consistency and the loyalty and the recognition and the trust, all important things. But confidence, if you have confidence in your abilities, it provides you peace of mind in knowing that you are targeting the right people with the right products and services, whether you have your brand dialed in or not, whether you have your marketing materials dialed in or not. Being confident in the way you approach the market is going to get you tremendously far. Is that the right way to say that? When it comes to visibility. So, not spinning your wheels, wondering about your graphics and your messages and all of that is the first thing that I would say when you're planning. Think about, how am I going to confidently approach? Am I confident in my products and my services? Am I confident in my messaging? And then make a plan for all of the rest. The second is the content that you create to serve your audience. So do you have a strategy for your highest value content? And if you know me, you know that I like to think about things in terms of a party. So let's think about this in terms of a party, okay? Right, Pat? So what's your pre-launch game plan, right? How are you sending the invitations? So how are you posting your content? I would recommend that you announce that something's coming. You kind of do a little bit of a tease. You invite people to watch for details so they're on the hook and they're waiting for you. And then you launch whatever it is. So you're hosting the party at this point. So you're walking the red carpet and you're making a big splash to grab attention, right? And I'm not saying you do this with all of your posts. I'm talking about your high value content. Then your third part is the post launch, right? So this is when you're sending them off with your goodie bags. So you can host Q&As around whatever that content was, showcase reviews, provide additional tips and tricks for use of the content, have some polls to create feedback. All of this is going to increase the visibility around that specific content, but also as you, as somebody that they want to continue to follow, that they want to buy from, that they want to learn from, whatever it is, the objective that you have for being online. Then the third is the conversations that you have with your kindred. So you have your broad audience, but at some point you're going to be segmenting down to your kindreds, the people who really want to go deep with you. And if 2020 has taught us anything, it's that our audience wants deep connection with us. So go deep, build relationships. So spend more time engaging with others' content than posting your own. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but if you're trying to increase your visibility in a credible, authentic way, people have to see that in the way you engage in other people's content. You can't be a one-trick pony. Become a resource. So expose your audience to others who complement your point of view or your products and services. Become a one-stop shop for whatever your area of expertise is. And then show your whole self. So talk more than just about your business. Use visual, vivid details to talk about you and your life and what you believe and what you stand for. Connect emotionally and find those common threads with your prospective customers. All of these things will help you to increase visibility in 2021.
Thank you so much. That is some great insight. And I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but doesn't it feel better when you think of it that way, where you are helping champion others, right? Like you mentioned, sharing their posts or commenting or lifting them up. And just being truly interested and authentic and helping others, to me, that just feels so much better. And doesn't feel like marketing, right?
Right.
So thank you for that. I think that's a fantastic twist to put on everything for us to really stay centered with that.
You're welcome.
Awesome stuff. Andrea Hubbard, Hub and Company, thanks for coming on. And yes, we have notepads full. And that's the good news about this episode. Will be put up on YouTube, so you can go back and replay that, because that was action-packed. Thanks a lot, Andrea. All right, so a lot of folks, when we think about visibility, we think about social media, because it seems to be the most accessible way we can get out there and tell people about what we're doing or lift others up, as Andrea was saying. So we brought in our expert to talk about social media and a little bit about blogging, Claire Lauer from CL Content Marketing. Howdy, Claire. How you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing well. I put lipstick on for the first time in like a year. I'm feeling sassy.
That is great. So help us out here. Certainly, I guess let's take social media first, Claire.
Yes,
When you
you
think
know
about
what?
that as a big picture. What suggestions, what things could small business owners put in place to ensure they're stepping into that correctly?
Yes, and this is like so eerie and it's all meant to be, but what I have to talk about social media plays off of what Andrea said so well. It's like you think we like planted this. Because with social media, we can talk about so much, but I wanted to keep what I have to share succinct and give you some good action items. So I'm going to share 2 nuggets and 2 challenges with each nugget. And I decided not to focus on the like giving ideas, which is perfect. Because as we all know, social media is very noisy. Let's just say that. It's like there's a lot going on. So the toughest part is really cutting through the clutter and having your voice heard by who you're trying to reach. And so really, we need to be more intentional with our social media in 2021, especially. And it's about having conversation, just what Andrea was saying. So really what I want you to focus on with your social media, something to put in place, is every single post you write to one person, write to that one dream client who you're trying to, don't just like blast marketing messaging. No one wants to hear that. It's boring, block, unfollow, delete. Talk to one person. So my challenge for you is to write a post today and write it to one person. Write it to me. Pretend you're writing to me. Pretend I ask you, how do you help? Pat, how do you help people? And then write your answer to me and post it as a social post. And you're probably thinking, well, where should I post it? So my next nugget is there are so many channels, right? There's so many social platforms, so many channels, and they pretty much all, dear Claire, yes, dear Claire, right? Write it to me. You don't have to actually write it to me, but go for it. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all these platforms have gone through massive upgrades and changes. The Facebook business suite is like this whole, lots of good changes. So I really encourage you to spend some time looking through whatever platform you're posting on to reach your target audience. If you use LinkedIn and Facebook, great. Really like lean into those platforms, but learn the new features. And so my next challenge with social media is I want you to try a new feature before the end of the year. So 2 examples. I want you to either go live on LinkedIn. I know some of you have. I want you to either go live on LinkedIn or make an Instagram reel. And if you don't know what that is, that's your challenge, is to look into your platforms that you're using. Let's say you use Instagram, you just post to do stories. That's awesome. I want you to do a reel. You use LinkedIn, you do your posts. That's great. I want you to go live, because it's really about, like I said, you got to cut through and talk to that one person. You're not blasting out messages to all. You're speaking to the one person. Oh, what about TikTok? Oh, if anyone in this group makes a TikTok, I will scream with joy. No, if you make a TikTok, please let me know. I'm on TikTok, but I'm not telling you my username. So those are my 2 social media, nuggets and challenge for social media. I know there's so much more we could talk about, but just to keep it succinct. And then do you want me just to move right on to blogging?
I think that sounds fantastic. Thanks for sharing tips and some challenges. Here we go.
I'm excited to see what you guys do. I know some of you on here are already like, oh boy, because you know I'm going to be watching and looking for it. So with blogging, I hear two things over and over again. I hear, is blogging dead? And then I hear, oh, I'm not a writer. And I'm going to tell you to stop saying those. And here's why. One, blogging it's not dead. Think of it, it's like a zombie. It's just undead. It's never gonna die. And your blog really has two audiences. It's, your dream client and Google. You have to keep posting fresh content on your website at least every 30 days. The blog is the best way to do it. So, come up with those topics to help you show up on Google for the, think about the services you offer, think about frequently asked questions. You're talking to Google, you're talking to that dream client. So I hope that helps. So I don't want to hear like blogging's dead. Like it's not, it's a zombie, it's never dying, get over it. And then the other thing I hear all the time is I'm not a writer. Well, guess what? You're never going to say that again because you can voice write, okay? Go to Google Docs, open a Google Doc, go to tools, click voice typing, write your blog, just speak, you got it. So, and if you need a prompt, I want you to think about your most frequently asked question that you get from a customer before they, buy from you or work with you. And just like open the Google Doc, tools, voice typing, and just answer. And you'll be shocked. You'll get 300 words and be like, I have 300 words? What? And you'll just need to, fluff it up a little bit, get it on your site. And now you've got the new content, you've got a blog, and never want to hear that you're not a writer. Again, we're all content creators.
Claire, let me ask a follow-up on social real quick. And you're right, the blogging is here forever. And when you use voice, you'll lay down way more content than you ever could by typing. But I want to go back to social just for a second. You and I talked about this quite a bit. Social can be kind of overwhelming because there are so many options. Like baby steps are okay. Like you gave us a challenge. That's a great baby step, but we don't have to try and dominate everything. Can you just touch on that one more time? Because it can be way overwhelming to say, oh, I'm terrible at social because there's so many options.
Yeah. And I hear that all the time. And I feel that way too. Like, trying to keep up with Instagram and LinkedIn, really I'm B2B, I'm marketing services. You don't get what I'm saying. LinkedIn's my biggest channel. I post once a week, every Monday at 8 a.m. I have 8 to 9 a.m. on Mondays is my CEO power hour. And I make my LinkedIn post. And Christine, who I think is on the call, my lovely VA, does post it for me sometimes. But every Monday at 8, I do my LinkedIn post. I just break it down. Got my weekly post out. I'm good. I'm visible. And then every day at 8 a.m. when I start my day, I just spend time engaging, which Andrea talked about. You can't just post and ghost. You can't just post content and run away. It's 8 a.m., jump on, scroll through, see what people are doing. Hey, looks great. Thanks for, posting this article, share, just set aside the time, just really break it down. Super simple.
And that's one way to be good at social without having to write a bunch of stuff. You just react to people that you respect and people that are saying interesting things, reshare what they're doing. And back to what Andrea mentioned, lift up people who are saying things that resonate with your audience as well. We could do an entire hour or weeks on social, but these are important things to get us thinking about. So thank you, Claire. We appreciate it. Claire Lauer from CL Content Marketing. All right, Liz, we're going to move on to another way to get attention and visibility. Let's welcome in Lisa Rabel from Rebel Girl Marketing to talk about events. Howdy, Lisa. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
So go ahead. What insight do you want to share today for our small business owners about events when it comes to visibility?
So I think of events as like networking, right? So there's 3 different types of networking. There's community kind of networking. We're all from home, so it's really important for us to get together. There's also a way of learning. This platform is a perfect example of that, like coming in, learning how to be a better business owner. And then there's always the learning of your industry. I'm part of the American Marketing Association, the Content Institute. I'm part of that. So I'm always learning about marketing because things are changing all the time. But then there's also lead generation. So just like in that kind of a concept, you think about events as well. So in events, it's in those 3 categories. So there's 3 ways to attend. The first way to attend an event is just to show up and participate. And when I say participate, I don't mean just sit there like this for an hour. that's going to get you nowhere. You have, I mean, I can't even tell you how many comments we have in the chat right now, because people are interacting with each other. You don't have to have a voice to be able to participate and to be able to interact. So the thing about participating though, is that I'm just going to give you kind of my caveat on that is like, don't dominate, don't try to manipulate, and also don't pontificate when you participate. It's all about value add to the audience you're talking about. It's all about what do you want to get out of this? And so it's all about making sure that when you do participate, it's not about you, it's about giving to the audience you're talking to. The second part is the way to participate in events is to do speaking. So you could, like all of us are doing today, take those subject matter experts, figure out what your niche is, get into your network, let people know that you want to be a speaker. Or if you find an event that's coming up and you want to speak at it, ask. People have all kinds of ways to get that. Like there's tons of events that are coming out in 2021 that they have speaker applications for. Go find it out, fill out the questionnaire, and ask the way to do it. Another way to do events is to be a sponsor. So like we have a sponsor for this wonderful event as well. You could also be a sponsor for an event. So, and it's not that much, that it doesn't cost a ton of money, but it gives you a lot of brand awareness. But make sure, just like Claire was talking about, make sure you want to make the audience is the right audience for you. Don't just sponsor anything. Make sure that your ideal audience is there and you show up where they're hanging out. And so those are the best ways of doing that. And quite honestly, like Pat Miller has shown us in 2020, if the platform isn't there, build it. If there's not an event that you like would really like to attend, there's no harm in trying to build the event, but start small. Don't have these like massive expectations you're going to get 1,000 people to attend. Start small with like 5 or 10 people. Work the event, figure out what that looks like, what works, what doesn't, and build it if it's not there. Like Lynn was saying, there's tons of ways that Zoom has stepping up to the plate to help with doing types of events, as well as all kinds of platforms that are showing up that help with all those things. So events are definitely something you should do for visibility, but don't just show up and be silent, show up and participate.
Great, thank you for that, Lisa. Such a great combination. I think when people think about events, they think, oh no, I have to put on an event. That's not for me. No, it's really about engaging, participating in the ones that resonate with you, where your audiences is hanging out, where you feel like you contribute the most. I love how you said that. How can you share and give back to this group at this event that you're at, and really keep that mindset in place? Fantastic. Thank you for sharing all that.
Absolutely.
So let's go on and talk about what we can do right now, because as Lisa had mentioned, if you want to create an event, you can create an event. You don't need anyone's permission. But there are things that we don't need to go build to start increasing our visibility. And one of them is the tried and true practice of networking. What are you doing right now to meet more people, to know and be known, right? So coming on to talk to us about networking, Lori Rifkin from Lunch with Lori. Lori, great to see you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How's everyone else doing today?
Very good, my friend. Liz, take it away.
All right. So thank you for coming on, Lori. Right. We want to just get some additional insights when you think about networking. And with this topic, I guess, as people look into next year, what are some things maybe you want to suggest that they make sure they have in their plan to ensure that they're getting the best out of networking that they can?
Okay, I broke it down into 5 points, and it sort of touches on that, especially since most people on this call are small business owners. Their business and their individual personality are merged. So I'm going to say that as a starting point. A lot of us, we are the business. So that means when you look at networking, you have to look at it maybe differently. And one of the things I look at networking differently is networking is a sales function. It's selling the most important product in the world. That's yourself. And that's what's different. You are selling yourself before your products, for your services, you're selling yourself. And that's why you need to be a networking superstar. And that leads to the second part of that. Every time and every place you go, you're on a sales call. And that sales call is to put your best image forward because you want people to relate and connect to you, which leads to a third thing. When you're doing that, you should have a networking persona. And I call that is what you give, because you don't sell by leading with what you want to take from people. You sell with your give, your differentiator, and your pitch. So the goal of your networking persona is to get people to want to meet you, develop a relationship with you, and tell others about you. So if you do that, you have people that want to have a relationship with you. And I use tools to do that. For some people, the tool could be Facebook, could be Instagram. For me, the tool is LinkedIn. And my goal is, because I'm a content creator, is to create engaging posts that people look forward to read to. And one thing about LinkedIn, don't always count the number of likes or comment as your audience, because when I travel around, I have tons of people tell me, I like what you're reading. That is great. That really hit home. They never like or comment on it. So your audience is probably 2 to 3 times bigger than what you see. And if you're not a content provider, like we talked about earlier, at least like and comment on other people's posts so you have some engagement, because all that LinkedIn posting and stuff should drive something. And the something is one-on-one meetings with people. Putting content out is not the goal. One-on-one meetings where you start the development of a long-term relationship is the purpose and the goal. It's the end game. Those one-on-one meetings, at least in my business and a lot of yours, is what drives sales and drives profitability, or drives that you're a subject matter expert that can lead to speaking events and everything else. For me, networking is opening doors. I'm doing presentations for groups. I'm building a course. It opened the doors to other things. And this is about small business and planning. One word of advice on this: leave part of your networking unplanned, because if you try to plan it all, you will miss the opportunities like Lunch with Lori. If I planned my life full, I could have never taken Lunch with Lori and launched it. So leave part of your life unplanned. To me, I tell my customers, having a plan that has unplanned parts is success. So that's what I see in networking. It opens doors, but the goal is one-on-one meetings with people.
Great, Lori. Thank you with that. And that's a good point, right? For those of us who do like to plan, I like what you just said, though. Don't plan everything so full that you can't take advantage of different opportunities that come up. But from the planning perspective, if there are networking groups or ways that you want to network more, sometimes you do have to put that on your calendar and say, okay, in February, I'm going to now start engaging in networking in this way or with this group, because I haven't. I keep saying I'm going to do it. Put it on your calendar to get started on it. So thank you, Lori, for sharing all that with us regarding networking.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Liz, I want to add one thing about what Lori said, and it relates to content creation, and it can happen on LinkedIn or any other platform. Lori, I want to ask you about this because I think it's a good behavior someone could take on. If you're not a content creator, there is a position in the world for a great audience member. And I can think of one person in our network, in my network, that does a great job of this is Michelle at Tech Lab, does an amazing job of this. If
Yes.
you're watching someone who's putting out content, show up and give them an authentic piece of compliment or feedback. And you can really, it's like walking up to seeing someone in person and saying, wow, you got a haircut. That looks really great. Like, you're going to really make an impact with people. And there is a position for someone that's maybe not a content creator just to be a good audience member. Have you seen that, Lori?
Absolutely, because those people are the ones I'm going to refer business to. If it's not something I do, because they're front and center. So that is important. Like I said in there, you either create content or you engage with others on their content, but you can't be in the middle. You have to do one or the other. And both of them are great strategies.
Excellent. Lori, thanks for being so thorough today. It's great to see you again, and congrats to the success with Lunch with Lori. Let's move on and talk about another way and go back to maybe if you are a content creator. Liz, it seems like everybody's podcasting. Should we talk about podcasting?
I think we should, because you're right. Either they have their own podcast or they want to be a guest on podcast. So Elsie, we need to talk about this and get from your perspective, what do people need to plan for though when they're thinking about either one of those, creating that podcast or wanting to be a guest?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I always like to do is provide perspective on podcasting, because a lot of people have very, how can I say this professionally? They don't have proper expectations of, why, the value, and how to extract the value out of podcasting. So I'm hoping to give some perspective today and maybe provide some tools that people can leverage, whether they're a host or guest. Okay, so I have a couple of questions for you guys before I dig in. How many of you on this call, it looks like there's about 34, 35 of us, either have a podcast or guest on podcast as a part of your content creation strategy? Okay, now think about this. So there's 35 people on this call right now. So if everybody on this call afterwards told 2 people about this call, imagine this is your podcast, it's your room, and you have 35 people and the only voice they hear is yours. That's over 100 people every single week that hear your message, only your message. And so my question, and I ask this to all of my clients, is what is that worth to you? If you could get 100 people in a room every week and they only hear your message, what value could that create for your business? When you start there and work your way backwards, you start to think about things a little bit differently in terms of how you structure your show, what you talk about, who you invite, what podcast you guest on, the whole nine. So I think starting off, having that perspective and understanding the power of your voice and being able to speak directly to people is an important thing to understand. So what I want to really talk about is awareness. With a podcast, you get to leverage someone else's audience, right? So you get to take a shortcut and take advantage of a Pat Miller's audience or an Elsie audience or whoever the host is. If you're guesting, that's a very, very powerful way to raise awareness and kind of get your brand out there. And one of the other things, and I struggled with this early on in my business career, is messaging. Being on point with who you are, what you do, and more importantly, why you do it. Why do you do what you do? Because again, there's a ton of people who do podcasting, right? But nobody does it why I do it. And nobody can do it quite how I do it. And so really having the ability to hone your message and to amplify and with a megaphone, that message is super powerful. And again, we're talking about building relationships, being authentic, and both with the host and with their audience, and giving value. When you are a guest on a podcast, I implore you, it is not about your product. It is not about your service, and it is not about you. It is about the value that you bring to the listener, period. Nothing else matters except that. And you have the ability to establish yourself as the authority. When I invite somebody on my show, it's because I trust them, it's because I know them, and I will introduce them to my audience. That is a precious, precious thing. And when you appear on somebody else's show, you automatically get that same authority, that same respect, and that same awareness. So guard it closely and protect it because it's super valuable. So a lot of people wonder, well, I don't really have time to host my own show. What about guesting on other podcasts? The one thing that I would say is make sure you're a good guest. We talked a little bit before about adding value. That's number one. After the show is done, and I see a lot of people make this mistake, promote the show. Like, comment, share, repeat. Like, comment, share. Share it with your email list. Share it with your tribe. get the show out there. That does two things. It amplifies your brand, but it amplifies the host's brand, their podcast, and they're going to want to promote you to other podcast hosts that they know. And so that is going to put gasoline on the fire of you being guests on other shows. And use the interview as micro content on both sides of the microphone. I see a lot of guests, they do the interview and then that's it. And they go on and they might like, comment, and share, but they don't take snippets of that interview and post it. They don't take comments and make tweetables and things like that. So you can leverage that audio and use it for yourself, almost as if you had a podcast, except you don't. You didn't have to do the recording. You didn't have to pay for the editing or any of that stuff. And you still take advantage of that content. Same thing as Lisa was talking about. You could create, other content and events and things like that, and really just squeeze all of the life out of the content. So in summary, if you're a host or a guest, it's important that it's all about the listener, add value to them. It's not about you, and hone your message, amplify your voice, leverage other people's audience.
Great. Thank you so much, Elsie. Is fantastic. Is there anything else you want to highlight as people think about if they want to start their own podcast? Are there any gotchas that when they come to you and they're ready for that? Or is there anything that you suggest that they have thought through or planned through before they even engage to get your support? Any insight there?
Yeah, I will say, podcasting is simple, but it's very time consuming if you do it right, and the strategy. So I always tell people, make sure you understand the why. Why are you doing this? Who are you targeting? And what your message is. And that could be on either side of the microphone, right? Because you want your time to be focused, efficient, and effective. So you don't want to flail around and just do things just because. You want to be very intentional and very strategic about how you spend your time and who you spend your time with.
Let me ask one quick question, Lori. It was dropped into the chat, or Lori, Elsie, sorry. JB was asking, is it a good practice if you want to get on podcasts to have a guest sheet that you can send to people when they're considering you?
Yes, I think not every host likes them, but I think having a well put together one sheet is always a plus for sure.
Excellent. Elsie Flanard, the mayor of Podcast Town. Get it right. Thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate this.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Wow. Liz, what a day. I know we covered so much ground. Final thoughts that you want to share about visibility or products in general, because we went through a lot today.
Oh, we certainly did. And I hope that everyone had some multiple nuggets to take away, to pause and reflect and think about. And boy, isn't it great to know there's such a community of people that you can tap if you want to learn more about those specific things that they were bringing to the table today. I just love the conversation.
Well, thank you for coming up with all the topics and guiding us through the conversation. And if you feel a little bit overwhelmed right now, that's by design, because we're going over everything you need to be thinking about to get ready for a whole year. But here's the good news, because Liz gave us the PDF for us to take notes. Friday is going to be banging, because on Friday, we're going to recap the week and then do an engaging Q&A with Liz. So, hey, how do I make my values? Hey, what do you think about this for financial steadiness? Oh, I wanted to ask about marketing. That's what Friday is all about. So don't miss the Friday show, and that'll be our chance to recap everything. So tomorrow, Liz, it's all about growth. How exciting. So can you give us a sneak peek of what tomorrow's all about?
Yeah, we want to do two main focus areas. One is going to be about team growth. So now I caught you. Don't stop listening, because I don't have a team. This is about people you either pay or do not pay that are helping you support your business and help you move forward, right? Or the team that you may need in the future, or if you do have one, that you are paying, how do you best support them to help you make the business the best it can be? So let's talk about team growth, and then let's also talk about personal and professional development. This part is about you as the CEO of your small business. what can you put in a plan to think about you? And yes, that's okay, right? How can you become the better leader that you need to be from a professional perspective? Are there things that you want to learn more about as a leader in your organization, or particular skill sets, or things about your industry that you really want to deep dive more into? But also, you want to consider your personal development. Are things that you need to put in place to ensure you're the best you can be from a mental health perspective or your physical health? So we're going to talk about both of those main categories tomorrow.
So if you're sitting there right now thinking, man, I got a lot out of this. This is really great. I got a lot of work to do. And these people were so generous. They gave all this information. All of the folks here today, they're in the Idea Collective. All of these folks are doing this every single day. So if you're running your small business by yourself, hello, what are you doing? Don't grow it alone. Come hang out with us inside the Idea Collective, because we've got engaging information and collaboration happening every single day. You can learn from people like this, and you can give what you do to others. You can see now why I'm so excited about it, because all these brilliant people are in there working together. So thank you to everyone who came in today to drop their expertise. Thanks for the questions in the chat, everyone that attended. And really a big thanks to our presenter and thought leader, Liz Watson, leader on the Impact Trail. She is just doing such a great job with this week. I'm so grateful for her leadership and her participation. If you want to learn more about Liz, and I don't know, maybe have her do this for you one-on-one, hello value, check out her website, LizWatsonImpactTrail.com. So tomorrow at noon, it's all about growth. Don't miss day 4 of planning week. And then we'll see you on Friday for day 5, where we're going to do the Q&A and get all of your questions answered. I'm Pat Miller, the Idea Coach. Thanks for attending Small Business Planning Week, sponsored by Bank 59. We'll see you tomorrow at noon.